What would we do without them? They tie things together. They carry our telephone calls. They're used to hold things up. You've seen them used to hold up lots of things. Did you know that when a string or wire is stretched really tight, it can make a sound? When we cause the string to vibrate, it will start the air around it vibrating too. And our ears will hear these vibrations as sound. Let's see. If we take a hollow box and fasten a post to it, perhaps we can make the sound louder. We'll stretch the string between the box and the post and see how it sounds. The vibrating string starts the box vibrating also, which makes even more of the air vibrate. This is called a sound box. Well, it is louder, but is it music? The highness or lowness of sound is called pitch. Wouldn't it be boring if music was played in just one pitch? I'll bet it would be pretty boring if we all talked in only one pitch.
Why did the fireman wear red suspenders?
To hold up his pants.
We would all sound like robots.
Why did the fireman wear blue suspenders?
Because he couldn't find the red ones, the red ones, the red ones.
It sounds a lot more human when we speak in different pitches by raising and lowering our voice.
People's voices come in lots of different pitches.
Luckily, we can make strings have different pitches by changing their lengths. By pinching or stopping the string in different places, we can raise and lower the pitch. Short strings sound high because they vibrate faster. Long strings vibrate slowly and make a low sound. A good string player knows just where to stop the strings to get the right notes. This large member of the violin family is a violoncello, or cello for short. The long strings and large sound box of the cello give it a deep, rich sound that is quite different from the much smaller violin. Violins and cellos are beautiful instruments. The wooden sound box is shaped so that it can cause the air vibrating inside to have a pleasing sound. The bridge holds up the strings and sends the vibrations to the sound box. Sound boxes for other stringed instruments have their own shapes. That's one of the things that makes each one sound special. Wait a minute. This isn't a Western. What does a horse have to do with violins? Whoa! Well, if we borrow a few hairs from a horse's tail... Hey! Sorry about that. And stretch them on a bow, we can play long notes on our string. The horsehair, with a little sticky rosin added, grabs the string as it goes by just enough to keep it vibrating. A bow makes a violin really special. And what could be better than one violin? Well, how about more violins? The second violin joins in. The viola, which is a little larger than a violin, adds its voice. And the cello. When these four musicians play together, they're called a string quartet. Let's go back and listen to the music. And I won't say a word.
No, there's nothing wrong with your video player. What you're missing is this. Sound. Sometimes we don't realize how important sound is until it's missing. Imagine trying to have a conversation without speaking. Or listening to the radio with the volume turned down. It seems that sound is pretty important, whether it's music to our ears or just noise. All sounds are caused by vibration. the vibration of a string, the vibration of concrete and metal, even the vibration of a flag makes sound. Whenever a flag is vibrated by a breeze, we hear it. Sound is made when something vibrates or moves back and forth in a regular manner. But not everything that moves back and forth makes a sound. This swing is moving back and forth, but it is not making a sound we can hear. The reason is it's vibrating too slowly. You can hear this vibration because it's much faster. An object must move back and forth rapidly for us to hear a sound. Let's test this idea. If you take a rubber band in your hand and shake it back and forth, no matter how fast you shake it, the rubber band doesn't make a sound. But if you stretch the rubber band and pluck it, the rubber band makes a sound because it moves back and forth fast enough for you to hear. For us to hear a sound, something must vibrate very fast, usually too fast for us to see. It's just a blur. To better see the vibrations that make a sound, try this experiment yourself. Stretch a flat rubber band tightly around nails in a board. Hang a few small strips of paper bent in half over a section of the rubber band. Pluck the section and watch the strips. When you do this experiment, write your observations in section 1 of the think sheet. Now, turn off the video player. Turn it back on when you have finished the experiment. The strips of paper made the vibration easier to see. When you plucked the rubber band, you heard a sound because the rubber band vibrated at about 60 times a second. You may have also noticed that even when you could no longer hear the sound, the rubber band was still vibrating a little. The reason you couldn't hear the sound was because the rubber band's vibration had slowed down. To make a sound we can hear, an object must vibrate at least 20 times a second. The vibrations that we hear as sound are usually carried to our ears through the air. When a tuning fork vibrates, its prongs move back and forth, sending pulses of energy through the air. The particles of air get pushed together and pulled apart and carry ripples of energy out from the vibrating fork. These moving pulses of energy are called sound waves. They move in all directions from the object that is vibrating. What happens when these waves reach a human ear? Tiny bones in the ear pass the energy of the wave from the eardrum to special nerves. The nerves signal the brain that waves have been detected, and you hear sound. Waves of sound behave much like waves on the water. Both spread outward from a source of disturbance. The falling droplet causes the water to vibrate, and the vibration ripples across the surface as tiny waves. You can create ripples like these to learn more about sound waves. Place a shallow glass dish, like a baking dish, on a white surface. Fill the dish with about 1 inch of water. Tap the surface of the water and watch. Observe how the waves spread across the dish. Now, tap the surface again, this time at one end of the dish. What do you notice about the ripples as they reach the far side of the dish? If sound waves behave in the same way, what do you think happens to them as they travel farther away? Try this experiment and write your answer in Part 2 of your Think Sheet. Maybe what you will see will explain what happens when you get further and further and further from the source of the sound.
This is a wash tub base. The string moves back and forth. This regular back and forth motion is called vibration. How is vibration related to sound? Hang a steel coil between two poles. Snap one end of the coil. A pulse of energy travels the length of the coil. The moving pulse compresses the steel coils. The coils then expand to their original positions. Only the pulse of energy moves down the length of the coil. Strike a tuning fork. The tuning fork vibrates. This vibration sends pulses of energy into the air. Air molecules are pushed together and pulled apart. The air molecules don't move away from the tuning fork. Only the energy pulses move away. These moving pulses of energy are called sound waves. Sound waves move in all directions. Sound waves travel to the ear. Tiny bones pass the wave energy through the eardrum. Special nerves signal the brain, and you hear sound. How does the brain identify different sounds? The brain can identify different properties of sounds. One property of sound is speed. Clap two boards together. You hear and see the clap at the same time. But a friend far away hears and sees something different. He sees you clap the boards. Sound waves move out from the boards. Real sound waves travel faster than in this drawing. A moment passes before your friend hears the sound. This happens because sound waves travel more slowly than light. How fast do sound waves travel? The speed depends on what material the sound passes through. Air molecules are far apart. Sound travels through air slowly. Sound travels faster through denser materials like water. Sound travels fastest through very dense materials. In 3 seconds, sound travels 1 kilometer through air. Using this fact, you can measure the distance of a lightning bolt. Start by counting the seconds after lightning strikes. When lightning is 1 kilometer away, you hear thunder in 3 seconds. Chart several bolts of lightning. You can tell if the storm is moving nearer or not. Sound has other properties. Do experiments to show these properties. Use a motor to make waves in water on a glass surface. Water waves are easier to see than sound waves. Water and sound waves are similar. Shine a strong light down on the water. Look at the waves. The waves are the same distance apart. This distance is called the wavelength. Wavelength is measured from one wave to the next. Different vibrations have different wavelengths. The wavelength of a vibration does not change. Wavelength stays the same at any distance from its source. Sound waves have another property called frequency. Stretch thin rubber over an open-ended can. Glue a small mirror to the rubber. Blow a trumpet into the can. Watch the reflected light vibrate. High notes make the mirror vibrate quickly. Low notes cause slower vibration. Sound waves make the mirrored light vibrate. The frequency of the sound is the number of vibrations per second. Human hearing is limited. Humans cannot hear this high-frequency whistle. But dogs can. Elephants can make low-frequency sounds. Only other elephants can hear these sounds. Humans cannot hear them. These sounds travel far. These sounds help the elephants coordinate their movements. We've discussed three properties of sound. One is speed. A second property is wavelength. A third property of sound is frequency. These three properties are related. Snap the coil slowly. These waves have long wavelengths and low frequencies. Fast snaps create short wavelengths and high frequencies. The two waves are different, but they are traveling through the same material. Therefore, the two waves are moving at the same speed. The coil jumps off the wire as the wave passes. Harder snaps make the coil jump higher. This experiment shows another property of sound. This property is called amplitude. To study amplitude, let's look at ocean waves. Stronger winds make bigger waves. As the waves grow bigger, their height increases. Amplitude is the distance from a wave's top to its bottom. All waves, including sound waves, have amplitude. You can measure amplitude. Put a paper in colored water. Mark the water level. Drop a weight in the water. This makes a small wave. Measure the wave's height on the paper. Now try some larger weights. Heavier weights make higher waves. Amplitude is directly related to the energy that creates it. Amplitude is related to the loudness of the sound. The same note can be loud or soft. Increased energy does not change frequency, wavelength, or speed. Only the amplitude changes. Some sounds have high amplitudes. High amplitudes can damage the human ear. What happens to a wave's energy when it strikes solid objects? Waves lose energy striking soft objects like sand. Waves behave differently when they strike something hard. When waves hit a hard surface, they bounce off in new directions. They overlap the original waves. Reflected waves do not change speed, frequency, or wavelength. They lose some energy when they are reflected. Their amplitude becomes smaller. Reflecting sound waves are the basis of a science called acoustics. Acoustics are important in recording music. This horn sounds harsh at first. Sound echoes are reflecting off the floor, walls, and ceiling. A recording engineer can improve this sound. He can change the room's acoustics. Soft pads absorb reflected sound and reduce echoes. Movable ceiling panels change the direction of the sound. Now the horn sounds softer and more pleasant. This computer uses sound to draw a picture of a fetus. The machine sends sound waves through the mother's womb. Its sound waves have high frequency and low amplitude. Bones, muscles, and fluids reflect the sound waves. The computer detects changes in the sound wave's direction. The computer draws the baby's picture. You can see the baby's heartbeat and its moving head and hands. Doctors use these pictures. They can study the fetus. The properties of sound make these images possible. New technology will continue to show us new uses for sound.